Well, the Bombers have had a good win to open up their campaign for the 2025 season. We've beaten Port Adelaide 9-18-72 to 8-12-60. It was a terrific win. It was whilst it was a pretty average game for most of the night in terms of the skill level, it was pretty close. And all we really wanted to see as Bomber fans was some effort, and we got that effort for pretty much the full 4 quarters. And finally, we were able to get reward for effort in the last quarter as we ground the power down, and the home crowd helped us over the line, and we kicked 4 final quarter goals. It was a good win, and isn't it good for the weekend when you finally get a win? And doesn't it just warm the heart to finally get that first win of the season? A week is indeed a long time in footy, as we know.
That's for sure.
And if you look at a season so far, 2 of the 3 games haven't actually been so bad. It's just that 80% of the attention has been on the terrible loss to Adelaide, and deservedly so. We're going to go through the game now and have a bit of a look. I just got home from the game, so these are my raw thoughts on the game. I just took some notes on it as I was going, so we're going to have a bit of a look and have a look at how some of the players went. I thought we got off to a good start. The first 5 minutes of the game, we dominated. We could have been a couple of goals up, but we just couldn't put goals on the board. Gresham, I noticed, was starting in the midfield, and he actually played a pretty good game. Mackay was still struggling there in the first quarter. Pryor as well, he made some mistakes in the first half. He attempted to spoil at one point instead of going for the mark, which cost a goal. He did improve as the match went on, I thought. Marks inside 50, which has been a problem in the previous 2 matches. The previous 2 matches, Hawthorn outmarked us inside 50, 18-6, and Adelaide did 20-7, and it was 5-1 in favour of Port Adelaide in this quarter. So the same problems were showing themselves, but we were able to get a bit better in this particular statistic, which is a very, very important stat, marks inside 50, and we needed to get better. 5-1 in the first quarter, looked like everything was just going how it was in the previous 2 games. Merrett had the 11 disposals in the first quarter, just such a fantastic player. I mean, he's just so far above and beyond every other player on our list. His, not just his ability, but his commitment as well. He just is a real role model the way he plays, and he really should be commended. Georgiades from Port was really, really dominant, probably too dominant. He's a very good player, but we were really, making him look like Tony Lockett there for a little while. But we were able to slow him down a little bit in the second half, but he kicked the 3 goals early. A couple of goals there in the first quarter. Thought Shiel did pretty well in the first quarter as well. He had the 9 disposals. Gresham had the 8 disposals. Hobbs started to get a little bit of the ball with the 6. Martin with the 6. And look, it was a pretty encouraging start. Whilst we trailed on the scoreboard 2-5-17 to 3-5-23, you could see the effort was there, and everything indicated at that point that we would be in the game at the very least. At least we would be, competitive. You could tell that early. El-Hawli was the sub. I didn't really agree with this. Or I did hear a bit of an explanation on the radio after the game. I like to see first game players given, the full game, when it's their first game. I did hear, because he was fasting, that this may have affected his energy during the week, and this was possibly one of the reasons why they made him the sub, because they thought he might have struggled to run out a full game, which I guess tends to make sense. Brent Stanton was saying that. And we'll get to his game later. He was a shining light in that last quarter, wasn't he? That was just a fantastic last quarter. But at quarter time, the Power led by 6 points. If you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button. That helps the YouTube algorithm when you do that. It doesn't cost any money, and it takes 1 second to do so. It would help me out a lot, so if you could just click it now, that would be absolutely fantastic. I'd really, really appreciate it. Look, the second quarter was a little bit of a stalemate, and probably the less talked about, the better. I don't think anybody's going to be ringing up Name a Game and going to be watching the second quarter. It was only 1 goal each. The effort was there from both teams. I didn't think it was a particularly unattractive game to watch in terms of, you like to see 2 teams having a go. And look, it wasn't a great spectacle. And really, both teams really just cancelled each other out in that corner. There wasn't a hell of a lot going on. At half-time, Merrett had the 18 possessions. Shiel had 15. And Shiel really looked like he was attacking the game. That's what I liked about Shiel's game. It really looked like he'd set himself to not just get the ball, but get the ball and run and attack. And it really looked like the Shiel of old. He played one of his best games. Well, certainly his best game for the year so far. He struggled in his first 2 games of the year. Gresham had the 14 possessions at halftime. Durham had 13. They were all playing well, and everybody was really playing. At least most of the midfielders were really playing okay. There wasn't too many that were struggling. A bit of a shout out to Zach Reed as well, who has only played 12 games, and he was having a really solid game down back. We'll get to how he performed for the full match as we just get to the end of this review. But he was solid. As was Mason Redman, who there's been a little bit of criticism of Redman, and deservedly so. He hasn't really played well. he's played pretty well. So even at halftime, down by 3 points, but the signs were there as they were in the first quarter that we're in the game. I thought McGrath was playing an interesting role. It looked like, now you guys who are watching on television might know this more than me, but it looked like he was playing on El-Hawli. He only ended up having the 9 possessions for the game, McGrath. I think he had 4 or 5 at half-time, but he kept El-Hawli to really nothing. El-Hawli only had the 36 champion data points and only kicked the one behind. So it looked like he was playing on him and having a bit of a shutdown role. That's at least from my vantage point anyway. So I thought McGrath, and this is an interesting, role change for him. And look, it might be something he can do going forward. Everyone's always critical of him a little bit for his disposal, saying he hasn't quite come on, never made All-Australian or anything like that. But if he's going to play a lockdown role instead, he's a pretty good reader of the play, McGrath. That's one thing he can do and always has done well. He reads the play well. People criticise him for turning the ball over, but he does read the play well. So if he's going to play a lockdown role on a small forward, that could be something that he could excel at going forward. So I thought that was really, really interesting. What do you guys think? Leave a message in the comments. Third quarter was once again a little bit of a stalemate. 3 goals to Port, 2 to us. But we kicked 2-7. They kicked 3-2. And I think the people paying attention, I thought at 3-quarter time that we were probably going to win the game at that point. It felt like we were getting on top. And we just needed a couple of things to go our way. And a few things did go our way. And we would probably go on to win the game. So even though the third quarter was a bit of a tug of war, I thought we just needed to hold our ground and make sure we didn't get too far behind and we'd be okay. So we just had the 2 goals in that quarter. Menzies kicked a goal. I actually did some nice things in this game. Best game he's played for a little while. And Archie Roberts also kicked a goal. Archie Roberts had a really good game. He had 21 possessions, the 98 champion data points. Probably the best game he's played, I would say, Archie Roberts. And, at that very important goal in that third quarter, which just kept us in touch. And we went into 3-quarter time, just the goal down. Just a bit of a shout out to Duursma. Now, Duursma really took it to another level in the last quarter, and we'll get up to that in a minute. He had 17 possessions up until 3-quarter time, and he was absolutely fantastic, I thought. I thought he was just absolutely had something to prove, perhaps against his old side. We often see this when players come up against their old side. They play really well. They're highly motivated. It's probably something that we perhaps could have been, we missed a little bit before the game that he was playing up against his old side. But he had the 17 possessions, but just wait till his last quarter. We start talking about that. He was absolutely fantastic. So we went into 3-quarter time, a goal down. But I thought starting to get on top around the ground and we were starting to look like the likely winners. We just needed to be a little bit more efficient and have a few things go our way. So the fourth quarter, we were totally dominant. We kicked 4 goals to nothing and we really started to get on top around the contest. The pressure was up. The home crowd was behind us. Just felt like one of those games where it gets close and you feel like the home team is going to get over the line. The exciting part about the last quarter, of course, was El-Hawli coming on at 3-quarter time as a sub. And really had a bit of an immediate impact. He was involved in a terrific bit of play in the middle of the ground where he linked up, was able to get the ball. He had a bounce, was involved in that chain of possession, which ended up resulting in a Nick Martin goal. And once he kicked that goal, that was kind of it. There was no looking back then. You could sort of feel as though we were going to go on to win the game. Redmond kicked a goal shortly after that, a big long goal. Like I said, he probably played his best game for a little while. Might have been his best game for a couple of years. Redmond was down a little bit last year. He played a pretty good game early last season against GWS, I remember. So it's probably his best game in around about 12 months, I reckon. Caddy kicked a goal to really put us just a bit more than a goal and a half up, and Draper kicked the final goal of the match. So I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Draper with his new kicking style, the crowd have started to cheer it. I remember last week against Adelaide, the crowd were groaning every time he was, lining up like that. But he kicked the 3 goals against Adelaide, of course. And I think the crowd have sort of started to cotton on that actually, well, it's working, and he's, hasn't missed a shot yet from, his newfound style of kicking the ball around the corner, which is good. I was a little bit critical of that last week, but then I heard some stuff on the radio that he's actually been practicing this for, in the off-season for about 6 months. And that's good. What you don't want is someone to just start kicking around the corner just because they're lacking confidence and then they're just trying something new for no reason. But if he's actually practiced it again and again and again, and it's something that he wants to bring into the game because it's part of his routine, then good on him. And all you can look at is the end result, and he's kicked either 5 or 6 straight goals under that. Whatever it is, he hasn't kicked it behind yet with that method. So good on him for trying something a little bit different. And as long as he follows his routine and he's disciplined and it's something that he puts work into, then it may be the way to go, and that's a good thing for him. Apparently, from what I've heard him say, because he was talking about it during the week, apparently it's got something to do with not pushing the ball to the right. He often would, push the ball to the right with his kicking style. When you kick around the corner, unless you really just absolutely shank it, the curl on it means it's probably not going to go right, and it's supposed to help him, so he says. So, look, if he's going to practice it, good on him. I thought that was pretty good. So, Xavier Duursma, I thought he was the best player on the ground. He was my number one player. He had 12 possessions in the last quarter, and just without looking at what they were, I think a lot of them were, must have been a couple of hardball gets in there, and he was just involved in important chains of play. That's what I liked about Duursma's game. When the game was on the line, he was there. Right? I mean, Merrett played a great game as well, 34 possessions. You expect that from Merrett, and we sort of take him for granted. But I actually thought Duursma was probably the best player on the ground. I had Merrett as probably number 2, and I had Sam Durham at number 3 in terms of my best players. But there was a number of good players. Caldwell was pretty solid. Not quite as good as he was in the first 2 weeks. He had the 23 possessions, and he was busy and did some important work around the ground. Gresham, I thought, probably played his best game of the year. Had the 20 possessions and kicked a very, very important goal. I thought he was really good. Redmond, probably the best game of the year. Roberts was good. Zach Reid has only played 12 games. He took 10 marks in this game. 16 possessions and 10 marks. This is the kind of thing where we want to see more of from Zach Reid. Obviously, he's a top 10 pick. He didn't ask to be picked top 10. That's not his fault. And, of course, he's been injured. But it'd be fantastic if he can continue to produce performances like this. That was probably the best game he's played for the club. And what I hope, and I think what we all hope, is he really needed a game like this just to get his confidence going and know that he can actually play like that. Once he's had a game like this, I think we'll see more games like it because he knows he can do it. And he must have questioned himself. It's only natural when you've got people criticising you and you're perhaps not setting the world on fire. But they have 16 possessions, 2 tackles, 10 marks. He had 88 champion data points. That's a really good game. Nick Martin was solid, had the 20 possessions. Jordan Ridley played a pretty solid game as well, had 5 marks, 22 possessions. Didn't really show any ill effects from the concussion. Jackson Pryor had a poor first half, but to his credit, he had a much, much better second half. He ended up finishing with 19 possessions and did a few nice things. He really did look out of sorts in the first half. Maybe the coach had a bit of a word to him and said, look, you can do this. And to his credit, he played much better in the second half. Look, I'd say it was probably only a 5 or 6 out of 10, if that. But he certainly had a much better second half than first half, and that's all you can ask. Caddy presented well all night. He kicked the 2 goals. He was really engaged with the crowd as well. You could see he was pumped up. That was really exciting. In a low-scoring game as well, to kick 2 goals too. Could have kicked 4 goals if he'd kicked straight. Brian was pretty solid in the ruck. Hobbs, again, loves to handball. Had 13 handballs, 8 kicks, 13 handballs. But the 21 possessions, certainly a much better performance than what he has in the previous weeks, where he only had the 3 kicks in each game. Draper was pretty good with the 2 goals. Harrison Jones didn't set the world on fire, but did a little bit. Mackay still struggled. He was getting some boos and jeers from the crowd. That's not on. I don't like that. I know people can do what they want if they pay their money to come in. And yeah, you can do what you want, but you shouldn't. There's a difference between being allowed to do it and you just shouldn't do it. And look, if we want to encourage these players and get them to play their best footy, we don't want to be booing and jeering them. I get why there's a minority of people that do it. I get that he's on a lot of money and all that sort of thing. But really, if you want someone to play their best footy, we should be encouraging these players. Kako, I thought, whilst he didn't score anything, I thought his pressure and intensity was really good. He looked like he was the type of player that could easily bob up and kick a goal. It didn't quite happen, but I thought his energy out there was really good. McGrath, as I mentioned earlier, only had the 9 possession, but looked like he was playing a shutdown role. And Willie Rioli didn't kick a goal, so you can't really ask for more than that. Edwards was subbed off at 3/4 time. Just kicked the one behind. Didn't really do a lot. And Saad El-Hawli had the 7 possessions in 1 quarter. So how good is that? That's the equivalent of having 28 for the game. I know it's not all about the possessions, but he linked up in a number of key bits of play. You can see his run and the excitement that he brings. He looks like he's a good disposer of the football. And, you know, I was a bit nervous for him at 3-quarter time because he comes on, because when you're the sub, you're watching there for 3 quarters and you really got all that nervous energy that's just there as you're watching on from the bench. You know, he would have been itching just to get on. And when he came on and just got that first possession where he's bursting through the middle of the ground, I think it would have done a whole lot for his confidence and his nerves. And he linked up a couple more times to get the 7 possessions. He was really good. I actually thought he gave us something as well. So I thought he played a terrific game there in the limited time that he was on the ground. So the Bombers, we ended up running out winners by 12 points. What did you guys think? I thought it was really good. We're just going to have a quick look at the stats now. As you can see, it was a bit more even for both teams. I mean, last week, Adelaide had a 2-to-1 ratio with their kicks to handballs, and we were 1-to-1. We had about 170 kicks, 170 handballs. And Adelaide really did shut down our possession game. We were the highest possession team in the game in 2024, and Adelaide had really worked that out. Well, Port didn't do a very good job of it because we had 231 kicks. And we were able to control, I thought, some parts of the game. 168 handballs, 59 inside 50s to 44. So it's 2 games out of 3 we've won the inside 50 count. It's not all about inside 50s, of course. It's about how you use it. It's about how you get it in there. It's about marks inside 50 and that sort of thing. But still, it's good to get it in there 59 times to 44. Disposal efficiency was pretty even. Free kicks I didn't think was a factor in the game. I thought the umpires were pretty good. Clearances were pretty even, 32 to 29. Centre clearances were pretty even. Contested possessions. We won the contested possession against Hawthorn by 25. And we've won it here against Port Adelaide by 29. So that's a big difference. I mean, that's 2 games out of 3 now that we've had significant wins in the contested possession. So there are some positives to look at. We've still got to work out. We've still got to be better at how we move the ball. I think we still have to get a little bit more efficient. It looked like to the naked eye as though we were moving the ball a bit quicker through the middle of the ground. I think that's the answer to getting more, marks inside 50 is to get the ball in there quicker so that the opposition defence can't set themselves. So that's something we need to improve. If we can just work at that part of the game, we seem to have the contested possession part of the game as a strength. That's 2 games in a row that we won it by a significant margin. Turnovers are pretty even, as you can see, 52 to 26. So all in all, you'd have to say it was a pretty good performance by the Bombers. We definitely had the better of the game. A lot more scoring shots. Signs were there at 3-quarter time. I had a ball at this game. I thought it was a lot of fun. Not a great spectacle, but it's always good to have a close win in front of a pro-Bomber crowd sitting right near the fence. It was really good. I had a enjoyable time there. I hope you guys were there. Let me know in the comments if you were at the game, and let me know in the comments if there's anything I missed or anything you would like to add. Please like this channel and subscribe to it. It would help the YouTube algorithm, and I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. That would be absolutely fantastic. I try to get this content out as soon as possible after the game to help you guys out and give you something to watch. It will appear on the YouTube browse feature for you if you subscribe, so that'd be fantastic. So, hope you have a great night. It always is when the Bombers get a good win. And as always, go Bombers!